The old barn smelled of fresh hay and summer dust. Sunlight slipped through the wooden cracks, drawing golden lines across the floor. Emma stood there with tears in her eyes, staring at the man she thought she knew. "You pretended to be poor just to marry me?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Who are you?" The man in front of her looked down for a moment, as if carrying the weight of a secret too heavy to hold any longer. Then he looked back at her and said softly, "I'm someone who wanted to be loved for the heart, not the money." And in that quiet moment, the truth that had been hidden for months began to unfold. Before we continue this story, take a second to support the channel. If you enjoy heartfelt stories about kindness, love, and life lessons, make sure you subscribe to your channel name, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps these stories reach people who need them the most. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Emma Parker lived in a small town in Ohio. It was the kind of place where people waved when they passed each other on the street and where everyone knew the owner of the local coffee shop. Emma worked 2 jobs. In the mornings, she helped at a diner called Sonny's. In the evenings, she worked at a small animal shelter just outside town. Her life wasn't easy, but she had something many people lacked. A heart full of kindness. Emma believed that kindness didn't need money. It only needed intention. She often spent her tips buying extra dog food for the shelter or paying for coffee for a stranger who looked like they were having a rough day. Most people in town admired her for it. But Emma never thought she was special. To her, kindness was simply the right thing to do. One rainy Tuesday morning, everything changed. The diner was almost empty when the door opened with a soft jingle. A tall man stepped inside wearing worn-out boots, faded jeans, and a jacket that looked like it had seen better days. His hair was messy, and he looked tired, like someone who had been traveling for days. Emma greeted him with her usual warm smile. "Morning. Sit anywhere you like." The man sat near the window. Emma brought him a menu and a glass of water. He looked at the menu for a long time, then finally said quietly, "What's the cheapest thing you've got?" Emma paused. It wasn't the first time she had heard that question. Without saying anything, she wrote down an order and walked to the kitchen. A few minutes later, she came back with a full breakfast plate, eggs, toast, bacon, and pancakes. The man looked confused. "I didn't order all that." Emma smiled. "Special of the day. But I can't afford." "It's already taken care of," she said gently. The man studied her face carefully, as if trying to understand something deeper. Then he nodded. "Thank you." That man's name was Daniel. For the next few weeks, Daniel kept coming back to the diner. Sometimes he ordered coffee. Sometimes just toast. Emma noticed he always tried to pay exactly what he owed, even counting coins from his pocket. But she also noticed something else. Daniel was kind. He held the door open for elderly customers. He helped a mother carry a stroller. Once, he even spent an hour fixing the diner's broken chair without being asked. One evening after her shift, Emma saw him sitting outside in the rain. "Don't you have somewhere to go?" she asked. Daniel shook his head. "Just passing through." Emma hesitated. Then she said something that surprised even herself. "You can stay in my spare room for a few days if you want." Daniel looked shocked. "You'd let a stranger stay in your house?" Emma shrugged. "You don't feel like a stranger." That was the beginning. Days turned into weeks. Daniel helped around the house, repaired things in town, and even volunteered at the animal shelter with Emma. The dogs loved him. And slowly, Emma did too. Daniel never spoke much about his past. He said he had worked in different cities and had been traveling for a while. Emma never pushed him for details. She believed everyone deserved privacy. But there was one thing she noticed. Sometimes Daniel looked at her with a strange mix of gratitude and sadness. Like he knew something she didn't. Months passed. One evening, Daniel took Emma for a walk near the old barn outside town. The sunset painted the sky in soft orange and pink. Daniel looked nervous. "Emma," he said slowly, "there's something I need to tell you." Emma smiled. "You look like someone about to confess a crime." Daniel laughed softly. "Not a crime. A truth." But before he could continue, Emma spoke first. "I love you." Daniel froze. For a moment, the world felt completely silent. Then he said, "Emma, will you marry me?" Her heart jumped. Yes. But she had no idea the real story hadn't even begun yet. A week later, Daniel asked Emma to meet him at the old barn. When she arrived, something felt different. A black luxury car was parked outside. Emma frowned. Inside the barn stood 3 men in suits. And Daniel looked different too. He was wearing a perfectly tailored suit. Emma's heart started racing. "What's going on?" she asked. Daniel stepped forward. The men behind him nodded respectfully. Emma's voice trembled. "Daniel, who are these people?" He took a deep breath. "My business partners." Emma blinked. "What business?" Daniel looked into her eyes. "The company I own." Emma's mind spun. "Own?" Daniel nodded slowly. "I'm the founder of a technology company worth several $100 million. The words felt unreal. Emma stepped back. "You're rich?" Daniel looked down. "Yes." Tears filled Emma's eyes. "You pretended to be poor just to marry me?" Her voice echoed through the barn. "Who are you?" Daniel walked closer. "I'm the same man you gave free breakfast to." Emma shook her head. "Why would you lie to me?" Daniel's voice softened. "Because my whole life, people loved my money before they loved me." He paused. "I needed to know if someone could love me without knowing what I had." Emma stared at him silently. "So you tested me?" Daniel nodded. "I didn't expect to fall in love. But I did." He looked around the barn. "You helped strangers. You cared for animals. You shared food with someone you thought had nothing." His voice cracked slightly. "You showed me what real kindness looks like." Emma's anger slowly faded into something else. Hurt, but also understanding. "You could have told me earlier." "I was afraid," Daniel admitted. "Afraid of what?" "That once you knew, everything would change." Emma wiped her tears. "Money doesn't change kindness, Daniel." She looked at him deeply. "But lies do." The silence between them felt heavy. Then Daniel said quietly, "If you walk away, I'll understand." Emma stood there thinking about the past months. The shelter. The diner. The quiet moments they shared. She remembered how Daniel stayed up all night caring for a sick puppy. How he fixed Mrs. Carter's porch without asking for anything. How he always looked at her like she was the most important person in the world. Finally, she spoke. "You may have started with a lie." Daniel lowered his head. "But you stayed with kindness." He looked up. Emma took a step closer. "I fell in love with the man who helped others when nobody was watching." She smiled softly. "And that man is still standing right here." Daniel's eyes filled with relief. "So, you're not leaving?" Emma laughed through her tears. "Only if you promise something." "Anything. No more pretending." Daniel nodded immediately. "Deal." And in that quiet barn, surrounded by hay and sunset light, Emma hugged the man who had once pretended to have nothing, but had actually found everything. Months later, Emma and Daniel started a charity together. They helped small-town shelters, struggling families, and people who just needed a second chance. Daniel used his money. Emma used her heart. Together, they proved something powerful. Kindness is the richest thing a person can have. And sometimes the greatest love stories begin not with wealth or status, but with a simple act of kindness in a small-town diner. So if this story touched your heart, remember this. Kindness doesn't need money. It doesn't need recognition. It only needs a willing heart. And the smallest act of kindness you give today might change someone's life tomorrow. And maybe, just maybe, it will change yours too. Red Heart.